I know a lot of people don't like the age. I understand it. He's played in 83% of his games the last 2 years, so I'm not worried about that. Again, he fills the Rockets' biggest void, which is consistent scoring. 53% last year from mid-range, 43% from three. Yeah, he's coming in from day one and fixing the Rockets' biggest issue, and I knew it wasn't going to be an expensive get. They only lost one young core player, and you still keep the 2027 and 2029 Phoenix first-round pick.
Bringing in Bradeaux. He is a guy I must follow, gives you all the information that you could possibly need on X. He is not only a Rockets enthusiast, but he's a hard worker, and he's got the ins and outs of everything.
He's also got by the way, he's also got a brand new podcast that he and Will and Kelly Iko are doing, and one other guy. So that's a good combination there. Kelly Iko's got a great article in the Athletic today, along with Sam Amick, why the Rockets changed course and fast-tracked their timeline to land Kevin Durant. So want to reference that as well. But we welcome into the show Bradeaux, who's been a guy who has, been tracking the Rockets from the rough times, younger guy who we really appreciate his hustle, is a huge Rocket fan. And I want to ask you an honest question. I know you were a big fan, Bradeaux, of the Rockets iteration. We all were. The way the Rockets came back, including Jalen Green, and really grew as a unit. How tough is this for you from a fan standpoint, watching Jalen Green go when he was part of the, they hit the rock bottom, but he was part of the come-up for the Rockets?
Yeah, for one, thank you guys for having me on the show. It is tough, losing Jalen Green. You grow, more and more with these guys as they get older. That was Jalen's, fourth year with the team. It does suck to see him go, but it was time, especially with him averaging 13 points in that playoff series against the Warriors. You make a move for Kevin Durant, a solidified scorer from every level of the field. It just makes sense. But I definitely grew more and more sad the more I thought about it. Like, dang, Jalen's he's officially gone. So it definitely going to be interesting seeing those guys in New Jerseys. But as I mentioned, it was definitely time.
So, load management. You had Jalen playing every night, no matter what. He was there for 82. Okay, what do you think? Is this going to have to be a load management thing with Kevin Durant to make sure that he's healthy for the postseason?
Yeah, I'm curious to see how they treat him on back-to-back specifically. The goal is you keep six of those young core players. You still have your team intact. You still have a top-5 defense next year, best rebounding team in the league. So you should not need KD every single night. That's not what you want when you acquire a guy like KD. You really just need him for the postseason. So, yeah, they should not be playing him 35, 40 minutes a night the way they treat Fred VanVleet, years past. I would just make sure he gets to the playoffs when it matters, and then, Houston should be good to go. They should be contenders.
Bradeaux with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. This opens the door for Cam Whitmore. Do you see it happening?
Yeah, it definitely does. There's definitely a void with Jalen Green leaving, especially Dylan Brooks as well. They don't necessarily have a two guard. That's what's missing right now. I'm also curious to see if they go and use that mid-level exception to go and grab somebody else. But, yeah, Cam Whitmore could be the guy who steps up. You maybe Doug spoke about it in the press conference after the season. Like, hey, Reed's going to have opportunity, especially Cam. But Cam's going to have to go and earn that opportunity. Ime Udoka, I love that he does not give out handouts. Cam has that opportunity to go and take that spot, so I want to see what he does.
Yeah, Bradeaux, so this is one of the things we're talking about is the dominoes that fall into place, and I think there is a question that needs to be, the question was always asked, do you pick up Fred VanVleet? Now, you have to make sure that the numbers are certain numbers so that you have money underneath the apron so that you can make a mid-level pickup. I mean, they still need another shooter on this roster. But how do you see this playing out with the backcourt now? How do you see the backcourt lining up? Do you expect to see Fred back? Is there a world where they could trust Reed Shepherd enough to be in the backcourt with Amen Thompson and kind of figure things out from bringing the ball up and getting into the offense standpoint? How do you see that working out?
Yeah, so Fred VanVleet, I for sure see coming back. I'm expecting him and Amen to be the 1 and 2 guards going into next season. Reed Shepherd, the goal is, you draft him third overall. The goal is to have him at least starting, I would hope, by next year, and Fred going to the backup role going forward. But, yeah, again, it depends on what they sign Fred VanVleet to. They're going to decline that team option for sure. He's not coming back for $42 million. That'd be absurd. But hopefully they get him at a good, team-friendly deal. They just brought in KD, re-signed Steve-O to a good deal, so I'd imagine Fred comes back for cheaper. So they have that money to go and bring in somebody for the two-guard. But, yeah, I'd like to see Reed start eventually. I don't think it'd be this year, but, starting in 2027, I'd like to see Reed go and take that spot, and he definitely can.
Bradeaux with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Yeah, Cam Whitmore, Reed Sheppard got to play a bigger role. Tari's got to stay healthy too. I mean, this has been an issue now. Tari has got to play, step up and play an even bigger role than he has in the past, doesn't he?
100%. Especially with Dillon Brooks leaving, they're missing one of their best, point of attack defenders. Dillon Brooks was the head of the snake when it came to the Rockets defense. And Tari, he was the guy who could have been, second team all defense last year if he played the whole year. So as you mentioned, we'd like to see him stay healthy. He had that freak injury 2 years ago where he missed 75% of the season. Last year it kind of came back to him. But this year, I'd like to see him stay healthy. He again, exceptional defender. I'd love to see him out there playing 25 to 30 minutes a night because I think he's that good of a player. But, yeah, as you mentioned, he definitely needs to stay healthy with us losing Dillon Brooks.
I think that's the concern. One of the concerns for me, very quietly, is he was not a player that always played back-to-backs either. And I think you can only have a certain amount of players who can, especially if they have if they're both wing players. Like, you don't want to get into a situation where you've got 2 or 3 players who you worry about playing back-to-back because then your roster gets a little – starts to really thin on a game-by-game basis relative to what the schedule looks like. So I'd love to see Tari get back to this. I mean, he's a young guy. You don't want him for the entirety of his career to be unable to play back-to-back games. I mean, that kind of scares you moving forward at this young of age when you re-up him. And that's the other thing. I wonder right now if getting off of the contract of Jalen Green allows you maybe a little more freedom in the future, assuming you get a very favorable extension done with Kevin Durant in terms of number of years, if this really helps you keep the other core intact, including Jabari Smith and Tari Eason, because we know Amen's going to be there, but Jabari and Tari are also kind of very quietly extremely important to this team as well.
Yeah, both of those guys are, and they're due for extensions this year, those rookie extensions. So I'm curious to see what value they get. They may just hold on and wait until the 2026 free agency to sign those guys. But as you mentioned, Tari Eason should be playing back-to-backs next year. And if he's not, then that's the issue. He definitely should be healthy enough to be playing those back-to-backs next year. And if he's not, then he may take a hit when he re-signs with the Rockets. But, yeah, they definitely need to be healthy going into next year. As you mentioned, you can't have too many guys sitting out on back-to-backs. Steven Adams is probably a guy who may be missing back-to-backs as well. So, yeah, you don't want that number to pile up, especially, in the Western Conference where wins are very, very important going into the playoffs.
What do you do with, you got some money there with Jay Sean. Between Jay Sean, Jeff Green, Aaron Holiday, that's about $20 million. Do you see some more little moves here to keep you under the apron?
They definitely could. Rafael Stone is very good at what he does, so it wouldn't surprise me if he makes another move. And as we mentioned, that 2 spot is definitely there for the taking for anybody. So a guy like Quentin Grimes is the player who's caught my attention the most. Really good 2 guard. He really showed out last year. That would be the move I would look into making. But I'm curious to see what they do. As you mentioned, that's a ton of salary that's there with Landale, Jeff Green, and even Aaron Holiday, and even Jason Tate. So, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he makes a move there.
What about –
go ahead,
we're talking about Gary Trent Jr. What do you think of that?
Gary Trent Jr., he's a really good shooter. Again, the Rockets last year were like a bottom 5 3-point shooting team. That's been the case for them a long time. You bring in Kevin Durant, that's good. You also lose Dillon Brooks, who was around a 40% shooter. So, yes, I wouldn't mind a Gary Trent Jr. Not the best defender, but, again, it fills that shooting vacancy that Houston has desperately needed.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. So we talked about this with Daryl Morey. Daryl got the team up to a certain point, and then I had a hard time pushing it over the top. And building a team up from ground floor is not the hardest thing in the world if you just, hit on your early draft picks. But finding a way to get it to that next level is difficult. And I think Rafael Stone and Ime are in a little different place now where it becomes a little bit more challenging. And moving forward, how you handle contracts is going to be huge. But also, is Ime going to be willing to say, okay, I have standards, but I'm willing to lighten up my standards a little bit defensively because I got to have a shooter. Like, I think it's important for coaches to be a little flexible like that, because if not, if you're too inflexible, you end up with a team that doesn't shoot well. And I think in today's NBA, you have to be able to shoot at an adequate pay, at an adequate number, to win at the highest level. It feels like to me.
I agree. As I mentioned, like, shooting is most important going into next year. They're going to be a top 5 defense. The rebounding is going to remain the same. Just look at that Game 7. They hit like 5 or 6 threes, and that's never sustainable. You need to be able to make threes in today's NBA. That's just how the math works. So, yeah, Gary Trent, as you mentioned, that would be an interesting signing. Quinn Grimes, again, really good shooter. I've seen a bunch of people mention Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I would love to see them make a move for a shooter because it's very important. And this Rockets team cannot shoot. And as we mentioned, Reece Shepard and Cam Whitmore hopefully will fill that void. Reece Shepard specifically, that's what he was drafted for. So I'd like to see him.
Bradeaux and John, I mean, listen, the Rockets are a favorable team to come to. If you are somebody with a mid-level exception or if you're a veteran that is looking to, if it's a choice between 3 different teams and the Rockets are one of those teams, there's a very good chance that Houston, no state income tax, number one. There's a very good chance that Houston is going to be the favored spot. So I don't think it's going to be hard finding a player, provided you're under that apron to add a player.
Yeah. Are you so you're totally down? I mean, you were all for this, Bradeaux, or where were you on keep running it back, or were you all KD, or were you all Giannis? How did you look at this thing before it happened?
So for me, I was all for Kevin Durant. I know a lot of people don't like the age. I understand it. He's played in 83% of his games the last 2 years, so I'm not worried about that. Again, he fills the Rockets' biggest void, which is consistent scoring. 53% last year from mid-range, 43% from 3. Yeah, he's coming in from day one to fixing the Rockets' biggest issue, and I knew it wasn't going to be an expensive get. They only lost one young core player, and you still keep the 2027 and 2029 Phoenix first-round pick. So they still have a ton of flexibility to improve this team. And, again, you bring in a Hall of Famer who is going to be with Ime Udoka, who coached him in Brooklyn. He's best friends with Royal Ivy. The Rockets just brought in DJ Augustine to the front office. They were college teammates. And, yeah, it just made sense. And he's going to be a perfect fit for this team. So I was definitely for that, especially with it being a cheap get.
I'm with you. I thought that was the best option because you didn't have to break up the whole team. You had to break up the whole team for Giannis. I really liked this deal. I didn't want to run it back because they're just not good enough. But Kevin Durant hasn't made his last couple of teams better. Granted, they were better. The Suns were better when he was on the floor than when he wasn't, but they still weren't good. Is Kevin Durant a championship player still?
I truly do. I look at what he did in Brooklyn, and that's a championship team if Kyrie Irving isn't hurt and James Harden doesn't mess up his hamstring. In Phoenix, I truly just think that team is awful. They had the worst center rotation in the NBA. It was a terrible defense. The point guard play was very inconsistent, and they were 3-17 when Kevin Durant did not play. Yeah, that Phoenix team was not good, but that's just on the GM. He really did a bad job with that roster, especially bringing in Bradley Beal for like $50 million, and he underperformed. So this Rockets team is completely different. That's a good team again. Top 5 defense. That's everybody team in the league. They just missed the score, and that's going to be what Kevin Durant does. So I like the deal. I think he's still a winner.
And you only gave up 2, like you said, 2 guys, and that number 10 overall pick. That number 10 overall pick, I don't think he's getting on the floor anyway, not for a while. Yeah. So, no, I really love the deal. I'm excited. I'm excited about this basket. And I think people will be excited for this basketball team too. Don't you, Bradeaux?
Yeah, you have to. If you're a Houston fan, you have to be excited. You go through 3 years of 17, 20, and 22 wins. Ime Udoka brought them to 52 wins in 2 years, and now we have Kevin Durant. You know, they talked about phase 1, 2, and 3, and we can all agree they're on phase 3 right now. And I hope the city shows up for every single game this year. It's going to be a very exciting year for the Rockets, and they're definitely contenders. They'll have to see what happens against OKC if they get there. But, yeah, it should definitely be exciting.
So what's the response been on your page?
It was funny. I've been posting about Kevin Durant for a while, and it's like 60-40 people were like, no, we don't need to bring in this old guy. But now I'm seeing a ton of optimism. I think people didn't understand that this was going to be very cheap to get him, and they were assuming it was going to cost like 3 to 4 young core members, and that was never the case. So I think people are excited, and they'll definitely be more excited when KD hits for Game 1.
Absolutely. That's Bradeaux with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Hey, continued success. You're doing a great job, and hopefully that podcast blows up. Where do we find it? What's the name, and where do we find it?
Thank you again for having me on. The podcast is Rockets Collective. It'll be on YouTube. We do live shows every day at 7:30 Central Time, so you definitely would enjoy it. Kelly has really good insight from The Athletic, as you mentioned. Ali Khan is very good as well, and then Will, my podcast partner for the Bradeaux and Will Show, both of us. It's really fun, so definitely tune in if you guys aren't tapped in there.
And the Bradeaux and Will Show is on YouTube as well?
Yes, it is. And then my platform, Bradeaux NBA, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that good stuff. So, yeah.
There it is. That's Bradeaux with us here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5. Look for it on YouTube, 7:30 every night with Kelly. Is it Eco or Ico? Which is it?
Eco.
It's Kelly
yeah,
Eco.
Kelly Eco. Yeah.
Del
Kelly
told
Eco.
you it was Kelly Eco. Del already tried to
You've
tell
been
you that.
selling. You just been saying Ico.
Oh, I may have said Ico earlier.
Yeah, you
I
did.
think I did. I think I
That's
did.
why I had to ask.
Yeah, you're right. That's on me, Brad. All right, so that's that. Well, it's a big look. John and I have been doing this radio show a long time. We weren't on the air when Barkley got traded. I was doing weekends. I was a young guy at 6'10", and when the Barkley trade went down, we were on for Tracy McGrady trade, which is a big deal. We were there for the Scottie Pippen trade, which was a big deal.
The James Harden.
The James Harden trade, which is a big deal. And this one ranks, Harden was young. Harden was different because that was young core guy. This is different because you jumped up quickly. Like you have championship aspirations right now. So it's exciting. Whether you love the deal, you hate the deal or whatever, it's definitely going to be exciting when the season rolls around late October.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, Bradeaux, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Continued success, man.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.
All right, there's Bradeaux right here on ESPN 97.5 and 92.5.